He said it with a calm smile. "I'm fine." Just two simple words. But in that split second, something felt different. His voice didn't sound like strength. It sounded like a man trying not to break on camera. Millions watched the moment and moved on. But true fans didn't. They replayed the clip. They slowed it down. And they heard it. A tiny crack in his voice, like a message hidden inside a whisper. It wasn't just a celebrity moment. It was a human moment. One of those times when someone says they're okay just to survive the next minute. And in that moment, Johnny Depp didn't speak to the world. He spoke to the people who truly understand pain hidden behind a smile. We've all said it before. "I'm fine." Two words that taste like strength on the tongue, but feel like shattered glass in the heart. People hear it and move on, but only a few notice the silence that follows. In a world where everyone is rushing, we've learned to hide our wounds behind practiced smiles. Johnny Depp did the same. He looked straight ahead, spoke calmly, and said he was fine. But behind that calm tone was something only real hearts could recognize, a quiet ache. This story isn't just about a celebrity moment. It's about that unspoken language we all know. The one where the voice shakes, the eyes soften, and the world hears, "I'm okay." But the soul whispers, "Please notice me." And in that moment, Johnny wasn't speaking to cameras. He was speaking to everyone who ever suffered in silence. It happened fast. Cameras were flashing, microphones pointed like arrows, and reporters were waiting for reaction, hungry for headlines, not healing. Johnny Depp stood there, composed like always, his posture steady, his expression calm. On the surface, he looked untouchable. The kind of calm that makes people say, "See? He's strong." Then came the question, personal, sharp, a little too casual to be kind. For a moment he paused, just a heartbeat too long. Then he smiled gently and said, "I'm fine." Nothing dramatic, no tears. Just a normal sentence spoken by a man the world thought they already understood. But true fans heard something else entirely. Because when someone has lived through storms, they learn to hear the rain even when the sky looks clear. And in that tiny shift of his voice, fans felt it. A weight, a quiet exhaustion, a softness that didn't exist before. Social media exploded, but not with gossip, with concern. Comments flooded in. His voice dipped right there. Did you hear it? He said he's fine, but he didn't sound fine. Something about his tone hurt more than any headline. People began replaying that moment like detectives of emotion, catching things the mainstream media didn't bother to feel. They noticed how he didn't blink as much, how he inhaled a little deeper before he spoke, how his voice had a slight tremble that wasn't weakness. It was honesty leaking through control. Because sometimes pain doesn't scream. Sometimes pain whispers. And Johnny's whisper spoke louder than any outburst ever could. In that split second, millions saw a celebrity. But real fans saw a human being. A man who has made the world laugh, cry, dream, and escape through his characters, now standing there with emotions tucked carefully behind a practiced phrase. "I'm fine." But the voice told the truth. And that's when people began to connect something deeper. That moment wasn't just his. It belonged to every person who has ever stood in front of a crowd, smiling, performing, pretending, just to make it through another day without falling apart. It wasn't about the words. It was about the silence behind them. The kind of silence that speaks only to those who have suffered quietly. The internet is usually loud, full of jokes, memes, and endless scrolling. But this time, something different happened. Instead of turning the moment into gossip, the world paused. Comment sections, usually filled with noise, were suddenly filled with something rare, gentle concern. Fans didn't just watch the clip, they studied it. They went frame by frame, looking at his face, listening to that exact second where his tone changed. Some even wrote, "This broke me more than any breakdown would have." He held so much in that one breath. Strong people don't always cry. Sometimes they just go quiet. And that's when a powerful realization spread across fan communities. People who joke loud often hurt the softest. People who say, "I'm fine," are often carrying stories no one asked about. Johnny Depp has always been known for his characters. The misfits, the broken souls, the misunderstood hearts. People loved him not just because he acted, but because he felt real. And now, standing there with a calm voice that trembled just a little, he became something even more powerful than a movie legend. He became a mirror. Because let's be honest, we've all had that moment. You're surrounded by people, maybe even smiling, and someone asks, "Are you okay?" You know, saying the truth will take too many words. It will make the air heavy. So you choose the shortcut. You say, "I'm fine." And your voice betrays you for just a moment. A tiny crack, a breath out of rhythm, a softness you didn't mean to show. That is exactly why fans connected so deeply. They didn't just hear his voice crack. They heard themselves in it. One fan wrote, "You can hear years of unspoken exhaustion in that one sentence." Another said, "It sounded like he wasn't speaking to the press anymore. He was speaking to himself, trying to convince his own heart." This wasn't a meltdown. This wasn't an emotional breakdown for the cameras. This was quiet pain, the kind most people overlook. And that's what made it powerful. Because when someone cries, people rush in with comfort. When someone screams, people pay attention. But when someone stays calm and says, "I'm fine," with a voice that doesn't match the words, that's when real heartbreak lives. The moment spread not because it was dramatic, but because it was too human to ignore. Johnny didn't need to collapse to show he was tired. Sometimes strength looks like holding your breath and choosing a soft answer instead of a scream. And just like that, a simple two-word sentence turned into a global moment of recognition, a message shared between souls who know what it means to carry quiet storms. Pain has many languages. Some people cry loudly, some break in public, but some become experts at silence. Johnny Depp stood there, shoulders relaxed, expression steady, the image of someone in control. But control is not always strength. Sometimes it's a shield, and behind that shield, something gentle was trembling. When he said, "I'm fine," his tone dipped just slightly, not enough for headlines, not enough for drama channels, but enough for hearts to notice. And that's when fans realized something powerful. He wasn't trying to hide pain from the world. He was trying to protect it. There's a kind of sadness that is too soft to be loud. It sits quietly inside the chest, patient and heavy. People who carry this kind of feeling don't break easily. That's what makes it both beautiful and heartbreaking. They keep moving. They keep smiling. They keep speaking calmly, as if their voice alone is holding the pieces together. And that day, his voice carried more truth than his words did. Fans described it like this: he sounded like someone who didn't want to burden anyone. It was the voice of a man who has cried before and promised himself not to cry again. That "I'm fine" felt like a bandage over an old wound. It wasn't weakness. No, it was tired bravery. The kind of bravery where you wake up, wear your best face, greet the world, and quietly whisper to yourself, "Just hold on a little longer." Many celebrities cry for attention. But this was different. This was a man holding himself together out of respect, not vulnerability. And that is why it hit harder. The world expects emotional breakdowns to be loud. But real heartbreak often sounds like a quiet breath before speaking. When Johnny spoke, fans could almost hear that breath, like a small pause where his heart steadied itself. Because saying "I'm fine" is not always a lie. Sometimes it means, "I'm surviving. I don't want pity. Please don't look too closely." And in that moment, his fans didn't pity him. They understood him. That's the difference. The internet can be cruel, but this time, something rare happened. Instead of turning pain into entertainment, viewers turned it into connection. They didn't say, "He's broken." They said, "He's human." And somehow, that made the moment sacred. The whisper of his voice reminded the world that even strong people, even icons, sometimes hold their hearts with trembling hands. There's a special kind of bond between Johnny Depp and his fans, one that doesn't rely on gossip headlines or movie premieres. It's deeper, almost unspoken, built slowly over years of watching him breathe life into characters who were broken, misunderstood, or quietly hurting. And maybe that's why this moment struck so hard. Because his fans didn't just watch his movies. They felt them. They saw a man who could turn pain into poetry on screen. Whether it was a quiet heartbreak in Finding Neverland, the lonely fire in Edward Scissorhands, or the chaotic sadness behind Jack Sparrow's jokes. Johnny always played characters who looked fine on the surface but carried oceans inside. So when he said, "I'm fine," fans instantly recognized that tone. It was the same tone used by people who learned to smile through storms. People who laugh loudly so no one asks why their eyes look tired. People who say, "Don't worry, I'm okay," just to avoid being asked a second time. People who carry pain carefully, like glass, not want it to shatter in front of others. Johnny's voice in that moment didn't just belong to him. It belonged to everyone who has ever felt invisible while hurting. One fan wrote, "It wasn't him speaking to the press. It was him speaking to people like us, the ones who understand quiet pain." And that is where true connection lives. Not in the words spoken, but in the feelings shared between people who don't even know each other beyond a screen, yet understand each other deeply. Another fan said, "He has made us feel seen through his characters all these years. This time we saw him." That comment alone sparked thousands of replies. It became more than a moment. It became a mirror where people saw their own pain reflected back at them. Because sometimes the most powerful part of a story is not the character, it's the recognition. The recognition of a voice that trembles but doesn't break. A smile that looks steady but feels tired. A sentence like, "I'm fine," loaded with a lifetime of swallowed words. And fans responded not with noise, but with empathy. They didn't say, "What happened? What's wrong?" They said, "We hear you." There's a kind of healing in being silently understood. Johnny didn't ask for sympathy. He didn't create drama. He simply answered politely. And yet, his voice told a deeper story. And only the ones with similar scars could hear it. That's why this moment became powerful. It wasn't viral because it was sensational. It was viral because it was human. A soft, quiet reminder that even the strongest hearts sometimes whisper instead of shout. Fame creates distance. The world places celebrities on shining pedestals and forgets that beneath the lights and applause, there is still a heartbeat, fragile, human, and often tired. Johnny Depp, to many, is a legend, a symbol, a face on posters, a voice in iconic roles, a figure in global headlines. But legends are made of people, and people bleed quietly. For years, cameras showed us a confident walk, the trademark smirk, the effortless charm. He became the man who could carry entire worlds on his shoulders, pirate ships, fantasy realms, emotional dramas, all while fans cheered and critics watched. But what most people forget is this. Carrying worlds on screen doesn't mean you're not carrying one inside. Behind the fame, behind the characters, behind the awards, there's a person who has lost, loved, fallen, healed, and broken like anyone else. A man who experienced betrayal under global spotlight. A father who faced personal battles while strangers formed opinions without ever knowing his silence. People often believe fame makes life easier. But Johnny's quiet tone in that single moment revealed something more honest. Fame does not erase pain. It simply hides behind better lighting. When he said, "I'm fine," it wasn't just a polite response. It was the voice of someone who has mastered the art of surviving. And that is what made millions feel closer to him than ever before. Because deep down, people don't connect to perfection. They connect to flaws, cracks, and soft, unguarded moments. And for a brief second, through that gentle shift in his voice, fans didn't see a superstar. They saw a man who quietly endures. He didn't need to break down to prove he was human. He didn't need to speak 1,000 words. He just needed to speak one sentence and let his voice do the rest. That is a rare form of honesty. The kind that doesn't shout for attention. It simply exists. And fans felt it deeply because they too have lived that kind of honesty. They too have smiled while hurting. They too have whispered, "I'm fine," with a voice that trembled just a little. And in that shared silence between him and the people who love him, something unspoken passed between hearts. A moment of understanding, soft and powerful. No applause, no spotlight, just a quiet acknowledgement. Behind every strong face, there is a story. Johnny Depp didn't need sympathy. He didn't need to be rescued. What he needed, and what he received, was something far more meaningful. He was seen, and sometimes being seen is the most powerful form of healing. In the end, It wasn't the words that stayed with people. It was the voice. A simple "I'm fine," spoken gently, carried more emotion than any speech could. Because sometimes strength isn't loud. Sometimes it sounds like steady breathing, controlled tone, and a heart that refuses to break in public. Even when it wants to. Johnny Depp didn't ask the world to understand him. Yet the world did. Not through headlines, not through drama, but through a shared human feeling. The quiet ache of pretending to be okay. And maybe that's the true magic of this moment. It wasn't about a celebrity being emotional. It was about humanity recognizing itself. His fans didn't just hear a voice. They heard a heartbeat. And in that moment, millions realized something deeply personal. Saying, "I'm fine," doesn't mean you're okay. Sometimes it means you're holding on just enough to get through the day. So this story isn't just about Johnny Depp. It's about everyone who has ever smiled to survive.